been walking around, or do you think
I haven't. I've been guided through the entire day. I hopefully will get some floor time tomorrow. I love the floor, and I barely ever get to experience it. So, yeah, but I'm excited.
Will you be costumed, or you will be you?
Well, you know, the beauty of a podcast is nobody really knows what I look like. I can go wander around. I don't have to do the Adam Savage thing where I put on a costume and hide. Although he's gifted in making those costumes, so it all works out well for him.
So can you talk about the process of bringing the podcast to the screen and deciding how the format, how you wanted to make it look?
So the podcast version of Lore is deceptively simple, right? It's me talking for 25 minutes about a topic. But there are components to it, like there are pieces. There are moments where I step aside and I provide historical background information on a topic or a thing or a place. There are moments where in order to tell the big story, I need to tell you a smaller piece of folklore that kind of shows you the progression of things. There are little departments in the episode, even though it's just me talking all the way through. But with TV, we get to use these new tools and say, all right, how can we separate those out a little bit, make them more visually distinctive? And that's what I really like about what we've done, where you have the main story being a scripted, dramatic scene playing out across the hour, but breaking it up are these moments where you step aside and there's animation that walks you through a bit of folklore, where I'm narrating that section, telling the story, or maybe there's some photographs of, you know, bizarre medical equipment, or, you know, videos from something. You know, we have film footage going back to the very late 1800s, so you can find some things in there. So it's been fun to take the format that already exists, but kind of highlight it more by bringing out the pieces with different formats.
So how it's for you work in a TV show that means each episode is a different story with a different cast, but at the same time people can watch all together. So how it's for you feel like working in a story on a TV show that you have a different cast, different story, but at the same time people can watch all together?
You know, the anthology model is kind of neat because, I mean, right now with the podcast, you can jump in and just download episode 42, right, and just listen to it. And it stands alone, and I like that about it. Whether you start at the beginning and work your way up, or you start at the current episodes and work your way back, it doesn't matter, and I like that. So what I do like about this is that the TV show works the same, right? You can jump in and watch episode 4, go to 1, go to 6, go to 3, 5, whatever. It doesn't matter. And it allows us to bring in all these great new faces to bring the stories to life. And they don't have to pour themselves out across a season of shows. They're just, it's all in on this one episode. And you know, you see the performances from people like Kristen Bauer and Holland Roland and Robert Patrick. I mean, what they've done with the characters that they had to play is just amazing. And then as a viewer, you just go to the next episode and it's a whole new cast. And it helps the story become the star, because now those people are gone, but we're going to tell another story, and the story is what it's all about. I love the crew, you know, I love the performers, but at the end of the day, the story is that's what the key is, I think.
Do you think that's what's attracting such great talent too, as far as actors? Like,
I think so.
Love that it's one story that.
On a practical side, you have somebody saying, "Will you do one episode of a TV show?" Like, you can work that into a. When I was on set with Passing Notes and Robert Patrick was there, he was in the middle of 5 projects. You know, like, but you can do an episode of Lore because you just need a week. Just swing in, do your stuff, you're good. And I think that's really attractive to people who are busy and they want to stay busy. Also, they're really compelling stories. The fact that they're true, they're creepy, and they're in a format like this new generation of television network with Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and the like. It's a great place to be.
Robert would like to come back next season with somebody completely different. He thinks this could work.
We're gonna need a lot of facial hair, but yeah, we'll get it out. I wasn't talking to you. We don't need your facial hair. Yeah.
But you could play with it too, yeah. Like
a favorite show in our house is Midsummer Murders, the BBC, which is in like 18th or 19th season, and you'll frequently see people come back.
Like Murder, She Wrote.
Exactly, yeah, it happens. I don't know if we'll get there with Lore. These are pretty high-level people that you recognize easily, but who knows?
Well, Do you think there are infinite possibilities then? This show could go on forever, being that there's no end, right?
I mean, look, at this point, I've written and produced 70 episodes of the podcast, and if we were able to do 50 of them as TV shows, that's 5 years of 10-episode seasons, and in those 5 years, I'll write another 140 episodes.
What's an example of an unfilmable podcast that, like, you would have to? You said you did 70, but 50.
Some of the episodes are theme-based. Okay. They're not necessarily character-based. So, like, there's an episode on curses where it's just stories about curses, and I could have swapped out any story for another story, and it's still the same theme, still has the same punchline, right? It's just they're components, but the character stories, their stories are what are important. So some of the theme-based ones would have to kind of get pushed off the table. There are a few character stories that are just too big for that unscripted space with unscripted budget, and where you have an entire community or multiple villages involved in a story. It becomes tricky.
Yeah. And what is it like? I just was wondering from a production standpoint, where you have to create a different setting for every episode. Like, that's got to be exhilarating for everybody, but also challenging. Right?
Absolutely,
like, because as the actress is just right here, and she's talking about creating Atlanta for Key West and everything, and how it was really.
Yeah, but they're so good at that. I mean, you wouldn't think that you could go into Georgia and find a New England mansion from the 1800s. But somebody bought one and moved it to Georgia because he liked it and hadn't remodeled it yet, so it was still period. Like, how do you find that? But in Georgia, you do. So Passing Notes takes place in a house that, as far as I know, came from the New England area, was put there by someone who at some point is going to remodel it and make it his own home. But it's like this period piece home right now. It's great.
So with 70 episodes, how did you choose which stories you were going to translate for, this first season, hopefully first of many seasons?
Yeah, because of the format being so unique in television, this mix of historical context and all these different pieces plus the drama, that I feel like that's enough unknown for viewers. It was really important to go into this season with some comfortable topics. Let's talk about werewolves and vampires and haunted houses and mental health and lobotomies. Things that they're more common tropes in horror and folklore. It's like you're staying kind of close to home in a bit. And I think that you move into season 2 and 3 and beyond, now the format becomes normal and accepted by the viewer. Now we can explore deeper stuff, more obscure things, and I think that'll be exciting too. But yeah, you do kind of have to be careful about what you pick. So, but it was also a matter of what are our favorites, right? What are the fan favorites? People love Robert the Doll. I don't know that they're gonna like seeing him on the screen. He is creepy, but yeah.
What about the podcast fan? What they found in the TV show that maybe they needed on the podcast, or they're surprised?
Well, we're working really hard to make sure that fans of the podcast feel familiar when they watch the show. So Chad Lawson does a lot of the music for the podcast. His music is in the TV show. My voice is the narrator in both of those places. Oh, thank you. And the structure is still the same. Introduce a theme, walk through some context and some story, button up the theme at the end. The structure, everything's there. We've cooked their favorite meal. We've painted the walls the same color. Like, we've put on their favorite music. We've made it all feel the same, except it's also different. And I think that's going to work really well.
I watched the first episode, and the first one had some animations on the start.
Yeah,
I love it, but she was telling me in the second one I didn't watch.
I only watched the
one.
beginning of the second and the third.
So it's something that we only see in the first one, or we'll see it again.
The animation comes in when it's necessary. It's not necessarily like, okay, all the introductions get an animation. We didn't do it that way. It was more of a, because I think one of the episodes it really made sense to film the introduction story. Every story is unique. Like, you have to stop and say, what does this particular story need? What's the approach that we're required for this one? But you'll see the animation, you'll see the found footage and the photos, and it all kind of comes together in pieces. Sorry, there were some enormous birds out there.
Yeah, I saw like 3 of them pass by already.
Yeah.
As long as they're out there.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We've had them in here.
Ooh.
It's not pretty.
I thought it was interesting. So, like, as the two other episodes that were made available to us, I only watched parts of it, but one of them was the man who killed his wife because he thought she had been replaced.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because you framed it using a story that's modern, and then went back to, or at least more modern. Obviously, it's not 18th century or 19th century. So, how do you? The structure fascinates me, and so how did you come up with that as your storytelling technique?
Well, if I'm going to walk people into a new theme or a topic, I need to start at a place of familiarity. And I think it's often helpful to start with a story that's a little bit more modern, because you can say, hey, just last year this thing happened, and we've actually been doing this for a very long time. And now let's go back to 200 years ago, and let me show you a really powerful story that's a good example of this. You know, that's a good way to bring somebody into the big story by saying, here's a quick bit. And it opens the door for the bigger bit, you know. But I was never taught it. I just kind of made it up as I go along. I'm still evolving.
Do you think that horror entertainment, I mean, we keep talking, not to get into politics or anything, but just we keep talking about, you know, division in the country. Do you think horror kind of unites us as human beings because we're all kind of afraid of the same things? And it kind of like...
Well, you know, what I've bumped into a lot in the episodes I've done is that the common thread through a lot of these stories is that people hate things that are different than them. Whether it's a different gender or a skin color or a cultural background or a language, they hate differences. And those emotions drive us to do some pretty horrible things. And I don't think that's a political statement at all, but some people think it is. Some people think that, well, you know, the most recent episode of the show from Monday, it's called Familiar, but it's about witch hunts. And I button it up, as I always do, with some thoughts about humanity and how we do things to each other that are horrible because we hate each other. And that's not political at all. It's apolitical. That's not right or left. It's not dem or rep. That's human, and it's sad. And you know, we think after all these years we'd figured it out, but we haven't. So
here I am again. Hey.
The bearer of bad news.
The bearer of bad news. One more switch. Oh, that was a beautiful